I would say that like do the work of really like finding out like your history and like your lived experience and your family's lived experience and be respectful of like other people's experiences with the same, right? I think that a lot of times we go into a story wanting to connect as journalists, but we don't want to do the work of connecting as people, because it's so challenging because we don't know our own history. We don't know our own, like the lived experiences of our family members. And I think once you're able to do that work of like finding out where your roots are, you're much more open to hearing other people's stories around the same, you know? And I think it was also that sense of like for me, um, it was that sense of like being away from like my own like culture and my own traditions and my own experiences when I came to Canada. And I think it didn't like sink in initially, like in the first 2 years of being in Carleton's journalism program. But it's very much like it starts out slowly, but then like that's what made it easier for me to like understand, or like I wouldn't say easier, but just like like made me part of that process of being like, okay, if like it's something that like I experience here in a different way, like what does this mean for Indigenous people and for Indigenous communities that have been dealing with like this displacement and this loss for as long as the colonial institution that is Canada has existed, right? So I think it's really like doing that internal work with yourself and like with your history and your lived experience. I also think, again, like I said, like a lot of the things that you're going to be challenged with when you're reporting in Indigenous communities with Indigenous people is that it goes against what you're taught in journalism school, right? Like chances are people aren't going to trust you, people aren't going to talk to you, people aren't going to talk to you on the record, people aren't going to get back to you for when your deadline is, um and you're going to have to just make peace with that because like no one owes you an answer, no one owes you a response, and no one owes any of these, like no one owes their story to you, you know, like it's like a privilege and a responsibility to be able to share those things, but no one owes these things to you. But yeah, like the fact is that, you know, it's going to take a long time for Indigenous people to trust the media enough to be journalists themselves. And a lot of it is also like the economics of it all, right? Like, why should an Indigenous person choose to go into journalism, which pays like maybe like 50 to $60,000 a year versus take up like a government job that pays them double and provides housing? So it's
Mhm.
going to be a long time, but like those of us that are in this space, that are in this industry, we have such a like it's really a responsibility, right? And it's like that commitment to reconciliation and allyship versus like activism, that's so important to figure out and to do the work for.